upstairs. Ooh.
Dr. J.H. Warner.
Unagi, that sounds good.
Thanks for the 43.
Man, we don't have anything like that here. I think I'd have to drive to Denver to find something like an H Mart. There are two Asian markets, but they're relatively far, like comparative to how big the city is, and how easy it is to get across. It's a drive for us. But I need to go and just wander and see what they've got. Because it's weird to do like all of my shopping in big box stores. Like it feels really weird. Time to start all over. No, it's not. We're good, but I do think that I need to close this chat and then reopen and... Oh, okay. Well, too late. I already did it. I'm doing it again. And then we can start the playlist version. Okay, there. Now, it wasn't showing. That message wasn't showing before, now it is. Okay, cool. So I know that... Okay. Yeah, I'm not doing grilled cheese in this specific video, but I will be doing the tomato basil bisque. Grilled cheese will probably be made after we end the live so that I can get lunch ready for the fam. H Mart's proteins are half the price of HEB? What? Wow. Okay, Unagi, I'll have to take a look at that. It's kind of weird. So like our international aisle, so our international aisle in Walmart is very different here than what we had back in Florida. They have almost an entire aisle for Mexican food, which I am obsessed with and love. There's so much more stuff there that I did not have access to back in Florida. However, they only sell plantains in the fresh produce section. They only sell plantains that are like on their way out. I can never find them green, and it makes me really sad because I can't make tostones when all they have are stuff for plátanos, and it's fine. I'm not upset about it. But the international aisle, so they have this entire aisle that's like full of stuff for Mexican food, and then the next aisle over is the international aisle, and it's got like half an aisle on one side. So it's like we've like kind of given out this whole thing because of the population that lives here, and then the rest of it is like super condensed, way less than I had access to before. And so I'm kind of struggling, which makes me sad because I'm really excited about the Mexican portion of it, but like any of the Korean, Japanese, Chinese flavors, I don't have as much access to because I had an Asian market back in Tallahassee, and I don't have that here yet. And that aisle is woefully like it's not it. So I have some searching to do. Demographics are a crazy thing. Okay. Okay, let's, oh, hello, we have a raid.
Thanks for the raid, Violet.
Hey, Violet.
Welcome.
Nice. Welcome, welcome. Hello, we're cooking. We're not doing video games, I'm sorry. We're cooking today. I'm making tomato basil bisque. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Lep, I guess if you're here for the cooking. Okay, cool. Lep, whenever you are ready. I feel like I probably should have changed into contacts. Also cleaned my glasses at some point. Are you good to go, babe? That did not do anything for my glasses. Okay. Mini Dutch oven? Oh, the little croquette. Yeah, they're cute, right? They're just little like ramekins. I put salt in mine, salt and sugar. Yeah. I also broke the top off and glued it back on because I wasn't gonna buy a new one.
I'd like to remind everyone, no alerts during the recording, no alerts.
Yeah, we're turning off the alerts.
And background music. Information only.
Okay. A liquor store. Interesting. Thanks, Unagi. Nice. Okay, 100 alerts, it's time. Yeah, why buy a new one when you can just fix it? Exactly. Okay. Give me a countdown and then I'll do the whole intro stuff. 5, 4, 3. Hello and welcome to the A Little Spoon Kitchen. Today we are making tomato basil bisque. I'm really excited to have you guys here. And let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to cut up either campari or roma tomatoes. You're looking for quite a bit. So I've got about a kilogram, somewhere between 12 to 16 roma tomatoes or the campari that are on the vine. It'll say on the vine or campari. They're kind of smallish. It's not like the big tomato like beefsteak tomatoes that would go on like a hamburger. They're smaller, their flavor is a little more concentrated. And so that's kind of why I use those. I really don't have a preference, but I will say that Romas tend to be cheaper. So yeah. If you are buying tomatoes to use for this recipe, and you don't know when you're going to be cooking this recipe, like if you're buying them, say, the day that you want to make it. You're like, okay, I'm making this tonight, I'm going to the store, getting my stuff. You want to make sure that when you're looking for your tomatoes, that your tomatoes are darker red in color. Sometimes, most of the time, when you're getting fruits and vegetables, if you're not at a local market, they are going to pick everything that's like not fully ripe, and then they'll spray ethylene into their trucks, and it ripens as it travels, and then it shows up on your shelves. Now, that's typically, if it's something that's not shipped from like an international, if it's something that's within the United States, typically from the time of picking to getting to a shelf is no more than like 4 days. So like it's not anything crazy if you're getting it from the country that you're living in, or even the state. Sometimes can be as little as 1 day between farm to the grocery store. But you're gonna want to look for a darker color instead of an orangey color. If it's orangey, there's a really good, or like really light red, it's a really good chance that it's either A, off season, and you're buying tomatoes in the winter when they're obviously at their peak in the summer, or they are very underripe. You will also notice that they're gonna be hard, which is not something that you really want if you're going to be like wanting to get that like really ripened tomatoey flavor. And so you're looking for something that's darker in color, you're looking for something that has give to it. And then if you're looking for a tomato that you want to use same day, I suggest that you rub your thumb along the skin of the tomato, and if you can feel it wrinkle just a little bit under your fingers, you've got a ripe tomato. If you have something that you can kind of do that, like this one is a little bit more waxy, and you don't feel that little wrinkling, you've got maybe a week or so to just leave it out on the counter, let it ripen. So if you are doing something that night, you're going to look for something that does have some give to it. You're going to look for a tomato that you can kind of rub and it does wrinkle a little bit so that you know it's on the riper side. If you know that you're going to make it, like you're buying your everything on Monday and you're doing like a weekly grocery shop situation, and then you know you're going to make it on Saturday, you can go ahead and look for something that is underripe, knowing that it will ripen on your countertop over the course of the week, and then it'll be perfect by the time you want to use it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just cutting these guys into quarters. We've got a bunch of tomatoes to prep and a bunch of onions to prep. These are just going to completely fill, like this is going to be a completely full baking tray. I'm learning hiding so much. Good. Now these don't have to be cut small because they are going to get blended. So you'll even see in the way that I chop up the tomato, when I chop up the onion, that I'm just going to do in like big chunks. And so because I just want it to really have the ability to like get a little roasty, get a little charred, and then I'm going to blend it. I don't need to worry about mincing or any of that kind of stuff. I buy canned tomatoes. That's okay. That's okay. If you're gonna buy canned tomatoes, I suggest that you use whole peeled tomatoes. If you can find San Marzanos and anything that has DOP on it, that might be hard for you to find, but if you can find like a DOP from Italy, those are gonna be the best tomatoes that you can get in a can. I use canned tomatoes for tomato sauce all the time. All the time. You'll probably see the Cento brand, CENTO. It's in a yellow can more than anything else. There's also, I forget what brand it is. There's a San Marzano one that's in a white, it's a white can. It's in a white can with like red and green accents. But those are the two I think most common that I see that are of the Italian variety. Yeah, okay, so that's interesting that you say that, Unagi, because I also do have some cherry tomatoes. Roast in the oven, or can I roast them on the grill? You can roast them on the grill, but I do suggest that you put them in like a griddle or something that can be contained, because you don't want to lose the juices of the tomatoes, because once they start to cook up, they're gonna start to kind of disintegrate. All of that liquid is going to kind of drip, and if it drips into your grill, then you've lost that, and that you want that in your soup. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm getting a bright kind of meaty flavor out of the romas, and then I'm getting sweetness out of my cherry tomatoes. And I really don't need too much of these. We're going for about 2 cups. I'm pretty sure I sliced up too many of the romas, but it's not a big deal. This is a super flexible soup. You can pretty much play around with this however you want. So I am going to just kind of do as much as I can. I might end up taking some of the tomatoes out so I can fit the onions, but we'll see where we get. It's okay if this is overcrowded. It is okay. And if you do want to get some better kind of color and char and roastiness, you can always split it between 2 pans so that it gets more air in between all of your vegetables. Your produce. I'll call it produce. Tomato is not a vegetable. There's no such thing as a vegetable. Save the juices. Someone's an OG Dado fan. Tutto Rosso, the brand I think you're talking about. It probably is. Hello, Bob Jones. For anybody, I always forget to do this. For anybody that's here and they're watching this from the playlist and not the live, or watching this at a later date and you are watching the live, just know that this at one point was an actual live stream. So I am looking off to the side and I'm talking to a chat over here. They're going to be asking me questions. They're going to be giving me statements to kind of talk on. And so I swear I'm not talking to myself. Hopefully they ask questions that you might have while you're also cooking along or watching this video. If they do not, and you still have questions by the time you've finished, or it doesn't seem like I've answered something, or they've asked a question that I can then speak to, and you have a question, go ahead and just ask me that question in the comment section, and I can answer it for you when I get notified that I have a new question in my YouTube. You can use whatever tomatoes you want. I bet you this would be absolutely delicious with some heirloom tomatoes. The only tomatoes I wouldn't recommend are the ones that you would see on like, okay, how do I say this? You can use whatever tomatoes you want. If you're buying store-bought, it's better to use the Camparis, the Romas, the cherry tomatoes, or like smaller tomatoes. If you can find good heirloom tomatoes at your local grocery store, that's also a really great option. But I'm really looking for tomatoes with the most flavor because tomato from grocery stores don't have a ton of flavor. And so you're kind of combating that by buying the most flavorful tomatoes. The tomatoes that you would use on a burger, like a beefsteak tomato, tend to be relatively flavorless and just like kind of watery, unless you're growing them at home. Like a ripe off the vine from your own garden or like local farmer's market tomato is the best tomato. Like there's hands down, they're always the most flavorful, best tomatoes. And I have yet to find anything similar in flavor from a grocery store. And so it's kind of one of those things that like I'm just kind of trying to work around the fact that I'm buying things from a grocery store or from a farmer's market and not getting them like straight from a garden. So like if you want to get beefsteak tomatoes from maybe a local farmer's market or if you grew them yourselves, I'm sure they taste way better than what you could get in a store. And so, yeah, go ahead. Like you can use whatever tomatoes you want. You just kind of have to work around some of the stuff that gets in the way of that, mainly like buying stuff from a grocery store. It's just tomatoes. Like, honestly, like there are so many other fruits and vegetables that there's very little difference, or at least not a big enough difference that I would like consider growing them. But like tomatoes are the one like produce that I'm like, man, they're just so much better. They're so much better when you grow them. It's kind of crazy. Like noticeably. I'd say that like leafy greens can also be sweeter if you're growing them at home than getting them in the store. They tend to be a little bit like crisper and more watery when you're buying them from the grocery store. But even that, like, it's not such a big difference that it's something that I would like be like, I have to do this every year. Oh no, I don't know why you watch food stuff while you're fasting either. What are you doing? Okay, last cherry tomato, and then we're gonna move on to our onions. There we go. We got 2 onions. This is probably, I'm looking for 2 medium onions. It's about 300 grams. This is probably about 1.5 of these. Actually, let me grab my scale to make sure. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna cut the top and bottom off. We're not mincing or dicing or any of that kind of stuff, so you don't need to worry about keeping the roots intact. The worst part about onions, well, actually the worst part is crying, but come on. Oh my goodness. There we go. Sometimes I will run this under water so that it helps get between the layers of the onions and really like pull it away so it doesn't stick as bad. But I have nails this week, so this isn't terrible. You put on goggles or sunglasses. Contacts are the best thing that you can wear when you're chopping onions. Contacts. I didn't know that I had such a hard time with onions because I wore contacts for like a really long time. And then I stopped wearing them and was like, what's all this, please? No, the best thing that you can do to save your eyes from onions, there's a couple of different things you can do. One of which is to keep a wet towel around to just like wipe down your surface and wipe down your knife to kind of keep all of the juice that you've kind of gotten out of the onion. So when you slice an onion, I like to keep these for soup. I'm gonna get a plate real quick. When you slice an onion, you break all of the cellular structure. I have paper plates. Ha. You break its cellular structure every time you slice through a cell, right? And you slice through the flesh, for lack of better terminology, of the onion. And so the sharper your knife is, the less crushing you're doing, the less kind of sulfuric release you're creating, which comes from every time you break through those cells. That's what comes out. And so having a sharp knife, having a wet paper towel to kind of wipe down your surface and stuff. If you are doing like finely diced or even just like a regular dice and you have a lot of onions, or like slicing finely and you have a lot of onions, I would have a bowl ready and then have like a wet paper towel kind of over the top of it to kind of help stop those fumes. And then the last thing that you can do is park yourself underneath a vent and have the vent running with you cutting kind of underneath it, and it'll pull those fumes up and they won't all get in your face. But contacts are really the best thing you can do. A food processor. Yeah, I mean, I guess if your tomato sauce is going to end up getting blended in some way, then yeah, I guess it wouldn't matter. But if you're making a tomato sauce, the food processor is going to have different, like, it's not going to cut anything evenly. So like, at least like if you're using a knife, you can control the size of your dice and the uniformity of your dice. But if you're using a food processor, some of them are going to be really small. You're going to have some that are really big, and it's going to be a little weird. So yes, I would highly recommend using like a knife unless you're blending it a lot. Okay, so this is all I'm doing for my onions here. If you want, you can even just kind of hang out with this being in half. And I just did this without measuring. So let me actually pull that back here. I'm going to measure this. That's not correct. Let's try that again. It's telling me this is 1,200 grams. I know that's not true. There we go. That's better. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so I only need about like a quarter of this left. So I really like my tomato soup, like super savory. If you are looking for a soup that is closer to like what you would get in like a can, like the Campbell's tomato soup that's kind of sweet, then I would suggest putting roasting a half a carrot in here, cutting it up to, about like pieces about the size of like this, and having like kind of, just going down your carrot and dicing that up. And including that in your soup to sweeten it. Why did I do that? Okay. Perfection. Okay. Yeah, the carrot, you can do that. I mean, you can also just you want to add some balsamic to get a little sweetness. You want to add some sugar. You can add sugar to this. I think I have some sugar in this recipe. Do I? I don't remember. Nope. You can add some sugar if you want to sweeten it up a little bit. Brown sugar would be a great option. You can add molasses if you want. Pretty much anything that is going to give you kind of like a warm, sweet depth is going to be great to add to the soup if you feel like you don't like it on the savory side or on the like acidic side, I should say, because tomatoes are very acidic. And then I've added some other things that are high in glutamate for savoriness, and then also do have some acidity to them. So like I have some lemon juice in this guy. But if you want to kind of pull to the opposite, just add some sweet stuff, maybe leave out some of the more acidic things, and you'll find yourself probably where you want to be. Okay, so I'm just going to give these a quick kind of mix. Ooh. So you can see that this pan is overcrowded, and I'm not mad about it. And I actually have to add one more thing to this before we're fully through. We've got some garlic to add to this. So I'm going to there's about a tablespoon, maybe a little bit more than that. About a tablespoon, you can do more, it's not a big deal, of olive oil, just enough to coat. And then you're going to use salt and pepper, about a teaspoon of salt and a half a teaspoon of black pepper, which I will go ahead and measure today. Why not? We can make that happen. Okay. Carrot, a couple of bay leaves, and Parmesan rind. I put Parmesan rind in mine too. I really like the added glutamate it gives. I'm gonna sneeze. Okay, so I said a teaspoon of salt and a half a teaspoon of black pepper. That is going to be about 2.5 grams of kosher salt and about 0.7 grams of black pepper. You are working with the metric system. I did say also 2 cups of cherry tomatoes. Let me go back through that, which is about 350 to 400 grams of cherry tomatoes, so a little less than, I can't say a pound because it's not right, but yeah, about 350 to 400 grams of cherry tomatoes. Okay, now let's mix. And then once I have this mixed, I will do the garlic bulb that we've got here. And that's also going to go on this sheet pan. And then this all is going to go upstairs in the oven. Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay, now it's time for this guy. So you are in front of the camera, by the way. Yep. No, it's good. It's fine. So here's our this recipe calls for some roasted garlic. It calls for 4 cloves of roasted garlic. If you want to use fresh garlic, you can. Roasted garlic is just, again, I strive to make this soup super savory. I want to kind of give you, when you're having the soup, when you're eating, I don't know, this soup, I want you to have a little bit of that tingly feeling kind of in the back of your jaw. I want that savory element to kind of be there. I want it to be a soup that feels like it's alive, like it's like waking up your taste buds, and not just like tomato soup. And so I have a lot of things that I have done to this recipe that are going to do that, and are going to add to that. one of the things is using roasted garlic. Roasted garlic does give it a sweetness, but it also gives it a depth of flavor, and it really enhances that savoriness. You can use raw garlic, and you can put in a clove, and that can get blended up, and or 4 cloves. I'd probably say to use, if you're gonna use fresh garlic, I'd probably say to use 2 to 3 instead of 4, just because it's just more pungent. So if you love garlic, maybe do 3. If you want it to be kind of the same, I'd say 2 max. But it's going to be peppery, and it's going to be a much brighter flavor, obviously, than the roasted garlic will. So it will slightly change the flavor of the dish. So much so that we care? Not really, but it's really up to you. It's not that huge of a step to just kind of like do this and then kind of have this cook with everything. It's all kind of happening at the same time. So I didn't kind of consider it a huge deal to have you guys do this. But you can put in more than 4 cloves. If when we use garlic, we measure with our heart. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna cut the top of your garlic off. Okay. So you have access to all of the cloves, the top of all the cloves, and then you're going to wrap this guy in tin foil, aluminum foil. It's no longer made of tin. Aluminum foil. I'm actually going to turn this into a square just to make things easier. There we go. It's going to get put right in the middle, and then we're going to just drizzle a touch of olive oil. We're doing some good stuff today. That's too much. That's okay. Not a big deal. It doesn't really matter. You just want to make sure that it gets down into the cloves. And then that's going to get smushed right here on the pan as well. Double trouble. Look at all this stuff. Okay, so that is going to get taken upstairs. And then we're going to work on getting some of the other ingredients that are going to then get blended once these come out of the oven. We've got several other ingredients that we are going to put. I've got a blender base and container over here. I'm going to pull that into frame, and I'll start working on that in just a minute. But let me take these upstairs and get them in the oven, and then we will be right back. No, you're not? Okay.
No, I am. I just didn't want
Well, I wanted to get
the camera.
you can still hear me. Hi. Okay. So, if you're cooking with me, your tomatoes, your onions, and your garlic just went upstairs. My upstairs, you're probably next to you. I do not have an oven in this kitchen. Probably right next to you into your oven. That is going to be at 425, which is 218 Celsius, 425 Fahrenheit, and it's going to chill. It's going to chill in there for about 40 minutes. Okay, this door won't shut on its own. Shut. There. And now what we're going to do is we're going to start putting everything that isn't going to get roasted, but is going to end up in the blender into our blender. So. What? What do you need? 40 minutes? Okay. The only thing that is not going into the blender is the Parmesan rind. That stays out. We don't want to blend that up. Okay, so we are going to use some tomato paste. I could not find fresh oregano at the store. We're going to use some dried oregano. It is fine if you cannot find or do not want to purchase fresh thyme or fresh oregano. You can use dried. It is not a huge deal. Just know that it is going to it is going to affect the flavor in different ways, right? So, and you're going to want to add stuff at different times. Typically, you know what I should have done is I should have put this in the roasted stuff. That's okay. So if you're using dried, just for future reference for anybody who is making this and wants to use dried stuff, I would tell you, instead of putting this into this blender, add this to your tomatoes and your onions that are getting roasted. So the thing about dried herbs is that they kind of need to be rehydrated. in order to really get good flavor, and it takes so much longer than it does if you're using fresh. So a lot of the times when you're using fresh herbs, right, they're gonna go in near the end and they're just gonna like subtly flavor your dish and really give it like a vegetalness and like a nice herby flavor. But they get added at the end. If you're using dry ingredients, so your dry herbs, they get added at the beginning so they have time to hydrate and really flavor the dish that you're using. So kind of my bad for not putting my dried oregano onto my stuff that's roasting upstairs, but it'll be fine. I do have fresh thyme. I do have fresh basil. Those are going to be going in. We're going to have some lemon zest and juice. My mom just got back from the UK and she brought me some little marmites. I don't need a lot, so this is kind of perfectly packaged for this meal. I have a big jar of it, but now we've just got these little guys. We're going to be using some white miso paste. And then I've got some cream and some chicken stock here that are going to be used after the fact. So let's get these guys all in together. For those of you who are cooking with me, how are we doing? Do we feel like we're in an okay place? I love Marmite. And that's another thing. So Marmite is yeast extract. It's really meaty in flavor. And it again adds like just another layer of like depth of flavor to your meal, to the soup. Doing good? Okay, cool. This is a bisque. This is a bisque. A bisque uses cream, and that is the difference. So once this goes in, this is a bisque. All bisques are soup, but not all soups are bisque. Skipping ahead? Nah, absolutely not. You can skip ahead if you need to. You've got the recipe, right? You can find the recipe online on my website at alittlespoon.com. You can skip ahead as if you feel like you got it, take it. Take it home. Do what you got to do. You didn't prepare for class today, but you'll be cooking this on Thursday? Well, good. I'm glad that you're, at least, if you have any questions, seriously, if you have any questions, ask them so that you won't have questions, or you like will feel more comfortable when you're doing this on Thursday. That's true. Everyone, yeah, that's true. Somebody just said everyone cooking along is always ahead because being a streamer slows everything down, and that's true because I just sit and chat, right? Okay, let's get going on this. So we've got everything. We've got our tomatoes all taken care of. Our onions are taken care of. Olive oil, kosher salt, black pepper is all good and done. That's all upstairs getting cooked. So now we've got our tomato paste. That's this guy. I do have a can opener. What did I do with it? There it is. I apologize in advance if this takes me a little bit longer than normal. This is a right-handed can opener. My left-handed can opener stopped working on little cans. And so now I have to use a right-handed one, and I am terrible at this. No, it's not clicking. This is not my cup of tea. There we go. Nope, still didn't do it. It's like not puncturing the can. I am not great at this. I think it's supposed to be up and down. Oh, at an angle. We got it. Nope, we lost it. Friends, I'm just a little left-handed girl. I'm gonna ruin this can. I feel like I should practice with this thing before I do a stream. You know what I think would be even easier? If I just used one of those like old can openers with like the hook on it that you would just like... It's making the clicky noise, but it's not actually going into the metal. Do I have my husband try to help me on this one? I think I was at too much of an angle. Guys, I'm left-handed. And this is unfair to left-handed people. How do I do this? Does it go this way? That's worse. I haven't used a right-handed can opener since I was in elementary school. I don't think that's right either. No. You know what I really need to get is one of the like magnetic automatic ones so that I don't have to do this. I'm demolishing this can. This can no longer works. Okay, we are going to, I'm not sure. We are going to consider how to pry this thing open is what we're gonna do. Yeah, I'm lefty. I'm a lefty. A table saw is a great option. I agree. How do you use a knife? I want to use a knife. Can I use a knife to do this? I got most of it, so we're just gonna push the cap down and like squeeze out whatever I can get. There. Look at that, we did it. We made it. Destroyed the can, got what I needed. We're all good. Okay, so you're gonna need about a tablespoon of tomato paste, which is about 16 grams. It's gonna go in, I'm gonna just use my finger because I'm cooking in my kitchen. Okay. Then we're gonna do our half of a teaspoon, or about 3.5 grams of marmite. Is there a difference in using the canned paste versus the tube? No, actually I should be using a tube. That would be even better. I think so if I'm making something that requires a lot of tomato paste, so like if I'm making my stuffed cabbage recipe, or if I'm making like a tomato basil hummus, then having a can makes more sense because there's so much more volume. That I like open and can just use it all at once. But a tube is like way better if you're using little bits at a time, which is really, I should have both in this house, but I just have the can. What I try to do is like if I know I'm gonna open a can, I try to have a couple recipes that I know I'm gonna use tomato paste in, like ready for like the next week or so that I can like use the can, but it is what it is. Okay, so we're gonna use, I think this might be the exact serving I need. That's kind of funny. Okay. We're gonna use a little bit of this guy. It's actually better if you can, so there are a couple things you can do because this obviously is like super sticky. It's like molasses, maybe it's thicker than molasses. Is you can do what I'm about to do, which is just to put my finger in this and kind of scrape it off and let it all go down. But you can find like liquid. So we're going to be using some lemon juice in this. We're going to be using some chicken stock. And what I would suggest is you just kind of like add a little bit to the chicken stock or the tomato, chicken stock or the lemon juice or even the cream or something like that and just kind of mix it in there so it dissolves because it'll dissolve in liquid. So if you can't get all of it off, you can either do like a heaping spoon, like a heaping amount, right? And do like a little bit more, just knowing that some of it's going to stick and you're not going to get it all out of this guy. You can spray this with the spoon with like a cooking spray or cooking oil. And that will help it kind of slide down and kind of fall right out. I didn't do that today because what I'll probably do is once I have the soup chilling on the stovetop and it's nice and warm, I'll probably just kind of mix this in there until it dissolves and then it'll be fine. But you can even save this, like you don't have to put this in the blender. You can keep the Marmite to the end and just kind of once everything's blended and poured in and it's nice and warm, you can just dissolve the whole thing in there and it'll be fine. Just trying to get everything into one dish or one thing at a time. Okay, 2 teaspoons of white miso paste, which is roughly 9.5 grams. So I've got a pouch for that. I didn't used to have a pouch for this. This is kind of weird for me. I used to just get it out of like a container that had a like much thicker miso paste. So like this is awkward. I think I got this one from Trader Joe's. It's good. I'm not sure if I like it being in a pouch or not. Okay, so we've got our miso paste. And then we have a cup of fresh basil leaves, which is about 7.5 grams. So we're gonna grab our basil. You're gonna call me an Uber. Call me an Uber for someone to come by and open the can for me. Actually, that'd be pretty funny. Have I had to make any changes cooking since you're at a different altitude? Yes, I have. So because I'm at a different altitude, things burn. I'm at a higher altitude for anybody who is just joining us or found this video randomly. I live in Colorado, and so my altitude is quite high. And that essentially means that everything burns faster here. So I have to cook things at a lower temperature. Not by much. We're not super, super high. I'm not at like 6,000 feet the way that Denver is. But we're relatively up there. So I have to drop all my temperatures by like 10 to 15 degrees. If I'm doing any kind of roasting or baking or caramelizing or any of that kind of stuff or frying. So like that becomes a little bit difficult. And then there's not as much atmosphere here. So at sea level, you need a certain amount of there's not as much atmospheric pressure, I should say. At sea level, you need a certain amount of leavener in order to get things to rise. And here I need less leavener because things will rise easier. There's not as much kind of pressure holding them down. So baking gets kind of weird. But I'm basically using like, I'm using 60% of what a recipe would call for. So if they want to use a tablespoon, which is about 15 milliliters by volume of anything, of a leavener, then I would be using 2 teaspoons or like 10 milliliters by volume in order to make that work. Wasn't paying attention. Too much basil. That's okay. There we go. Okay, so we got our basil. But yeah, I've adjusted, but I adjusted pretty quickly. I don't typically follow recipes. Like I develop recipes and I write them, but I don't typically follow them myself very often. Or I'll like piecemeal a bunch of stuff together and just kind of like come up with what I want something to be. So I'm always adjusting anyway. So like I just kind of adjust on the fly now. It's just kind of like a concept that I'm like, okay, if you want to do this, do X, Y, Z, and then I just like rearrange the recipe in my head. So it hasn't been a terrible adjustment, but it was an adjustment. Okay, so for thyme, moving on to our thyme, we need about a teaspoon of thyme, which is not a lot. I would say to measure this by volume, you're not going to be able to measure this by weight unless you have a coffee scale. You only need 0.1 grams of thyme. Not a ton. So I'm just going to kind of toss the leaves into my little teaspoon here. You really just want to have the leaves or the soft bendy parts of the thyme. Technically, like you could use this whole thing, up to where it stops bending. So like even like the super fresh like ends, like I could literally just do this and use like kind of the tip and like the first 2 or 3 little pieces. I'm going to be using just the leaves today just because they're a more potent flavor. But the stems that get woody and hard on thyme will be bitter if they end up in your soup. There are a handful of herbs that the stems taste exactly like the leaves do. So like cilantro or parsley, you can cut down the stems and use them the same way that you would and like blend them into anything and it'll taste the same. It's not going to do anything. But a lot of the other stuff, so like a rosemary or a thyme, the stems are super woody and super bitter if you add them in. So you want to stick to just the leaves or any of the like really, really young stems. Good morning. This is my husband's least favorite thing to do in Thanksgiving is pick the leaves off the thyme. I use a lot of thyme in my stuffing. And we usually have to pick through about 3 of these. And he hates it. I tried to do it a couple days beforehand, but the last year I did not have the ability to do that, and Like it just takes it takes over an hour to do. It smells really good right now. Yeah, 2 hours of the most tedious task ever invented. Yeah. I look forward to making this as the weather gets cooler. Nice. Yeah, this like cusp of like, especially for like more northern states, if you are in the United States, are places that can like tend to be a little bit cooler in their growing season. Goes a little bit later into September for like tomatoes and stuff like that. If we were in Florida right now, like tomato season is done by September. Everything is run its course. Tomatoes are gone. We're moving into fall vegetables. And all that kind of stuff. But for anybody who's like further north in the world, we're still like at the tail end of tomato season. So you do get a couple of like brisk days where you still have like tomatoes that are like nice and fresh, and they're like even fresh in the stores, and you can really make some fun stuff with them. So tomato soup is a really good one to have on hand if you're feeling like you want like some kind of transitional soup between summer and fall. Almost. I know it doesn't sound like a lot when you're like, you need 0.1 gram of thyme. But once you start actually picking through, you're like, oh, actually, this is several sprigs. Okay, I think that's about enough. Okay. So we've got our thyme. Okay. And now we're gonna do. Okay, so now's where you would do the fresh oregano. I am gonna do some dried oregano, and I'm gonna do a little bit less than what the fresh oregano is. Dried oregano is stronger than fresh oregano because that flavor has kind of been like concentrated down as it was dehydrated. So I'm doing a little bit less than what the recipe calls for. But if you are using fresh oregano, now is the time. Time. And then lastly, so that was supposed to be 1 teaspoon. I used a little bit less than that. And then that is the equivalent of about 1 gram of your fresh oregano. Now I've got the roasted garlic, which we will get to when we pull our tomatoes and our onions and our garlic out of the oven. I'll show you guys how to add the roasted garlic into this. Let's jump into, let's see. Yeah, okay, so we're gonna set this aside now. So this is basically all of the ingredients that we're gonna be adding into, do I wanna do lemon now? Yeah, let's just do lemon now. Okay, let's add lemon. I've got a microplane somewhere around here as well. Boop. Okay, so we're gonna do some zest of the lemon and some lemon juice. I'm just trying to make it a little bit easier for people to follow along since I have to go upstairs and get people later who are not watching this on a live and are watching this on a playlist. I'm gonna just kind of do as much as I possibly can before we kind of cut to now I'm taking stuff out of the oven. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do our lemon guy here. I'm gonna give it a quick wash. And then we're gonna be using zest and we're gonna be using juice. So it only needs about 1 teaspoon of lemon zest, which isn't a lot. It's less than 1 gram, so about 0.8 grams. But you can kind of eyeball it. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's depending on the size of your lemon, it's probably somewhere between 1/4 to 1/2 or 1/3 of a lemon. Okay, so that's basically it. I'm gonna do that, get that zest in. And then the way that we're gonna do this, I'll show you guys how to cut up a lemon. so that you don't have to deal with seeds. Clear up my space a little bit. Okay, so if you do not, most of the time people will cut a lemon like in half, and that's fine. Like if you want to use like a reamer or something like that and like kind of squeeze the juice out, or even like a fresh, like an actual, it's not a squeezer. My brain's not working today. A juicer, I guess, where they're like, you kind of put the half a lemon in and like give it a little juice. If you want to just do it by hand, but you also don't want to deal with the seeds, you're going to cut the end off like this. Stand it up so you've got like a nice flat surface, okay? And then I'm actually going to do it on the side. I'm going to cut on the side that I already got the zest off of. So now this becomes softer on this side. It's easier to squeeze. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go kind of right on the outside of the kind of bump here at the end, the tail end, and make sure that I'm like not going through the middle. So all the seeds for a lemon are in the middle. So I can literally cut this half, and then these little guys here, and I will leave all the seeds in the middle, and now I'm just using the juice of the lemon. So we're going for a half a teaspoon of lemon juice, which is not a lot, which is also why I didn't want to, like, I can use this for something else later. So we've just got a touch of lemon juice. So I'm going to squeeze that. And that's it. And I didn't have to deal with any seeds popping into here, and I mean, fishing seeds out and all that kind of stuff. And you can see them because they're so close to the center that when you are cutting and you cut this down, you'll see, like, because they'll be sitting, all the seeds will be like kind of right on the surface. If you do see any at all, like if you didn't cut far enough out, you'll be able to see them. They won't be kind of buried in the way they can be if you cut it kind of halfway. Okay, so now that is basically everything. The cream and the chicken stock I'm just going to be adding directly into the pot after we've blended up all of the tomatoes and stuff, the roasted tomatoes in here. There's plenty of liquid that is going to come out of those tomatoes, and the onions are going to soften and all that kind of stuff. So we're not going to need any additional liquid like a chicken stock or a cream to make this happen. And if we start adding all of the extras, it'll have too much, there'll be too much liquid in here, and we don't want to go, there's like a max line obviously on blenders that you don't want to go above that. So there will be plenty that gets added to this. I'll probably have to do it in 2 batches. And so we won't need any of the liquid in this. So we've actually got everything taken care of for this guy. And I'm just going to start setting stuff aside. I'm going to clean my space. We've probably got about 20 or so minutes left for the roasted tomatoes and onions and the garlic upstairs in my oven. So I am actually going to chill with my live people here, and then I will be back for the people who are here watching the playlist, so that you don't have to sit and wait another 20 minutes while we twiddle our thumbs because there's really nothing else to do. We'll kind of like cut to, and then the next thing you're going to see is you're going to see me kind of coming back with a tray of the roasted tomatoes and onions and all that kind of stuff. So I will see you in a hot minute. For my live people, hello. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? Any questions you have while I like clean up my space? I'm just gonna move this aside. Anything from anybody? Anything. Any cooking questions? And it doesn't have to be about this recipe, because like the people who are gonna see this on a playlist aren't gonna see this part. So if you have anything that you wanna ask, please do. Do I use Marmite often in my cooking? Yes, I use Marmite a lot. I use anytime I am making a savory soup, stew, or sauce, there's Marmite in it. Like almost every time. Do you honestly think they didn't see you?
Did you see me walk in, Jack? Routine for keeping your knife sharp.
He's my routine.
Once every 6 months, I sharpen them with a whetstone, and then
In between, we use a honing
every other day, I use the honing knife to
honing knife.
honing stick
Sure. Yeah. Honing stick.
to the part called bite. No, to realign the burr.
Yes.
Honing rod. Yes. It's a knife sharpening stream. That's pretty boring.
A knife sharpening stream, I honestly think that would be a great idea.
This one's not been honed in a while.
A lot. I honed it this morning. A lot of people.
Nice.
Yeah, I was like, I have tomatoes to cut through. This has to be honed. A lot of people don't know how to sharpen knives. I think that would be a great thing to do. Let's see. This is good. This is recyclable. I'm just gonna. Your mommy or my mommy? Hi. Hi, Pam.
Mom, are you ready to show up in a week?
Are you nervous? We miss you. Yeah, I have no idea how to sharpen my knives. The number of times, like I've seen so many videos of people who are like talking about having sharp knives, or a video of someone sharpening their knives or something like that, and people are like, or like talking about going to other people's houses, and it's like knives are so dull. It's one of the things that when I stay at like an Airbnb or a VBRO or any of that kind of stuff, I sometimes will bring knives with me, and like things that I know that I'm gonna want to need, like I'm gonna want to use that I don't expect them to have in the house, and because like I can't, like sawing through something because the knives have never been sharpened is like super hard. Like I can't do it. Yeah, a local place, usually if you can find like a kitchen supply store, a lot of the times they'll have knife sharpening services, and you can have them do it. And I think they charge, this is the live one, this isn't the playlist. They charge by the inch. So it might be like $1 an inch or something like that, depending on the size of your knife. So if it's a paring knife, it's cheaper. If it's a chef knife, I think this one is like a 7 3/4, but most, like if you're getting a full chef's knife, sometimes they go out to like 9.5 inches. So it might be more expensive, but we're adults here.
Looks like I need to text my mom some info.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I wouldn't be going through TSA with a knife. I would be putting it onto the plane. If I have a knife in my bag, I'm either driving with it because it's within travel distance, or it's going under a plane. I don't want to lose my knives. Do you find a container of whole peppercorns are expensive these days? Costco is the cheapest, 14 ounces for $7.49. Oh my gosh, $8.50 for an 8-ounce jar at the grocery store is wild. Go to a market of some kind, an Asian market, a Middle Eastern market, an Indian market, a Mexican market, or something. Like they will have bags. That's where I get all of my spices. They all have bags of spices that you can purchase, and you can get, like, you think Costco is cheap? You can get that same like 16-ounce bag for like $5.99 of like whole peppercorns. I would first time using an Oprah, right? Okay, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one. I feel like I need to get a different. I don't know. I tried it that way. I'm not sure. Oh, I thought I had to go up and down. It goes to the side. I don't know. It looks like it's bending the can. So the problem is my left-handed can opener works on 14 ounce and higher, cans, but the little guys that are like these like 6-7 ounce whatever little guys, it doesn't fit around, and I think just because I've had it for so long, the blade is dulled, and so now it's squishing the cans instead of actually going around them, which means I needed to get a different can opener, and I just bought one that I was like, okay, well, it's got good reviews or whatever, but I don't know, maybe it's left-handedness, maybe I'm just terrible at using can openers. The can opener boss is rough. Aldi's pretty cheap for spices too. Cool. I'm glad I'm not the only one struggling. I almost was like, honey, can you come in here and do this for me?
This can opener sucks.
Okay.
Warping.
Amazon wasn't cheaper either. Amazon's not. I don't feel like Amazon's going to be that much cheaper for much longer. An automatic Cuisinart can opener. Yeah, best spices found at your local supermercado mexicano. Yeah, I would agree. Well, and it depends. So like if I'm going, like obviously like if I'm looking for kombu or bonito flakes or gochujang or gochugaru or any of those kind of stuff, like obviously I'm going to an Asian market. If I'm looking for cardamom and cumin and turmeric and jaggery or like any of those other spices, I'm going to a Middle Eastern or an Indian market. If I'm going to, and like there's overlap, like a lot of the stores will have overlap just because of like geographical boundaries, and that like northern places are the same as southern places and like that kind of a thing. And then Mexican markets, if you want some dried chiles, you're gonna get the best ones there. If you're looking for cal, if you're looking for like, there's a lot of different stuff that like I kind of piecemealed together, and now like I don't have a ton of access to that. So yeah, and that's Mystic. That was what I was lucky enough to have back in Florida, and we don't quite have that now. We do have some Mexican markets, and I'm pretty positive that I have found some Asian markets that are, I think, super south of us. They're like in the next towns, like south of us. But I have not found any kind of like Middle Eastern market or anything like that. So I'm a little nervous, but we'll find out. You got it off. Oh, is it a side? That does not look like a side. It looks like you crushed it. I'll have to make some hummus, and then we can maybe open another can. Baby, don't cut yourself. That looks terrible. You guys can't see what I'm seeing. Can you see what I'm seeing?
Yeah. You can't open that.
I need to check out our farmers market. I found them. I know when they are and where they are. I just need to make time to go to them. Now that we're finally done with all of our travel for the year, for the most part, or I'm done with all my travel for the year, I should say. I am hoping to get out to at least one. Any pumpkin or squash recipes in the near future? I'm not sure what month I'm doing it. I don't know if it's next month or the month after, if it's an October or November recipe, but I have a soufla recipe, which is essentially like phyllo and like an egg custard, but it's got, okay, I'll explain it. It's got butternut squash in it, and it's got cheddar in it. And so what you do is you make a sage brown butter, right? So you're making brown butter, toss some sage in, get it nice and crackly, nice good like fall flavors, right? And then you baste in between a phyllo sheet. So you put a phyllo sheet down, a single sheet, baste with the sage butter, and then put another sheet on top, and then you accordion it. And then in between the accordions, you're putting alternating rows of cheddar cheese and the butternut squash that you've kind of peeled and like sliced into like little half moons. And you're putting that in, and then that gets put into a casserole dish. And you can make it go in a circle if you want, or you can just kind of like, straight up and down, depending on what size dish you have or shape. And then you make an egg custard that then gets poured on top of that. and gets baked in the oven, and it's so good. So yes, I do have a syrup that I was gonna put out. I have a pumpkin spice syrup for like coffees and ice cream topping and like that kind of a thing that I was gonna put out, but it's not fully developed yet. I'm hoping to have that ready to go by, I think, November. But yeah, I've got a couple of syrups and sauces and things that I'm gonna be putting out on the website over the next couple months. You can play Weird Al while accordioning your phyllo. That's fine. You can use, I actually prefer honey nut squash. I think it's just a more concentrated flavor and it's slightly sweeter. But honey nut can be kind of hard to find if you're not in like a bougie or specialty store. Butternut squash is what I started the recipe with, and it works just as well. But if you can find honey nut, I would highly recommend using that. How long do I let my chicken stock simmer for? Pretty much all day. A minimum of 6 hours, I would say. A minimum of 6 hours on the chicken stock for me. Have I ever put in for any cooking TV shows or opportunities? No. No, I have not. Nope. Why not? I don't think that I know enough. And I know that sounds like, hey, she's sitting here teaching us stuff and she's got all these recipes, but I feel like I would need to be introduced to more ingredients, introduced to more techniques, introduced to more flavors, travel more, and really experience kind of culture and how people are making things before I decide to jump into that space, because I come from a very traditional space and like kind of French space of cooking. And I would want to learn techniques from other cultures before I jump into something like that. And I'm not at a point where I would feel comfortable like being told I need to make something and then having an idea and being able to execute it under the amount of pressure and time constraint that I know that people are given to do those things. And so that it terrifies me a little bit. I don't like timed things freak me out. I actually used to teach cooking classes in person, and I had 2 hours to make 2 to 3 recipes, try to give people a bunch of information, and make sure everybody knew how to make everything and were comfortable. And that time constraint with all of the things that I needed to teach, I didn't like it. I liked the teaching, but the time constraint made me feel like I wasn't teaching to the best of my abilities. And so I don't know. I don't know. The anxiety of that, I think, would be too much for me. Because I'm gonna start my own show. Clarkin. Yeah, that's why. I'm not saying that yes, I feel like I have a natural instinct, which is great, but it's just because of years of being in the kitchen and doing stuff and messing things up and knowing like, if I mess this up, how can I fix it? Versus if I messed it up enough that I need to fix it, how do I fix it? If I messed it up, but does it really matter and isn't really gonna do anything? Or if I mess it up and like, okay, yeah, I have to start over. Like I've done something really stupid here. Like I know that, and I feel like I have a pretty good instinct for like understanding technique and how to do things and when to do things and what it's doing, right? What the ingredients are doing together, and like, you know, what order to do things to get the like best impact on a recipe. But again, it comes from a very like French style of cooking, and I want more. I would like to have a more well-rounded view of cooking before I do anything like that. So, okay. My mom is here with the stuff, and you have gloves, but I do not. So let me do this real quick. Okay, chat. The live portion of this is about to end. We're gonna go back to our playlist version. So hold on to your questions, because if you have anything outside of this recipe, you can hold on to those questions. When I end the live, we can chat some more. So just stay tuned. I am grabbing this. Okay, so it is time now for me to go ahead and get the tomatoes and the onions out of the oven. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that real quick. Okay. Let's do that. Okay, so I said that I was going to tell you guys how to handle the garlic. We're just going to let the steam come off of that a little bit. I really like to leave my garlic, personally, I like to leave my garlic in the oven. It was obviously insulated for with all of the liquid and kind of stuff like that, so it didn't get as roasty as I really like, but it is roasted enough that you're not going to notice it's roasted garlic. It's going to be sweet, it's going to be delicious. But what I typically do is I cook my garlic in bulk. So I'll make like 20 of these, and I'll have them kind of all sitting on a tray, and I'll roast them for like an hour until they are like brown and like they just like squish out. This will still kind of squish out of the clove pretty well, but it's not going to be like pasty. Like it won't be like a paste, it'll stay a solid clove. Okay. So we're going to leave the lemon. I'm leaving the lemon out just in case like I need a little bit extra brightness. I probably won't, but we'll see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scoop these guys into my blender. You can see that I've got some nice kind of roasted. They've dehydrated and shrunk up a little bit. The onions have some charred roasted bits. They've gone slightly translucent. It's pretty much exactly where I want it to be. But you can see like how much liquid there is on this pan. Just doing this. I'm letting my garlic cool off a little bit, and then I'll squish some of those cloves out of the garlic and into my blender. I love roasted garlic. And so I'm technically allergic to garlic, but being the person that I am, like, I can't give up. Who gives up garlic? No way. And so I tried garlic lots of different ways, and I found that roasted garlic is okay. So fresh garlic, I can tell when something's got fresh garlic in it. I can feel the burn, so to speak. Powdered garlic is a little bit less, but roasted garlic, and I have no reaction, and we're here for it. So that is what I do. And I pretty much only use roasted garlic. So you'll see, like, if you're going through my recipes, you'll see that a lot of the time I use roasted garlic, and I will say, if you want to use fresh garlic, because like, and I do actually test it with fresh garlic, but I eat very little of it. Like I kind of like adjust to taste to see like how different the flavors are and which one I like better and want to kind of have as the recipe. So some recipes do have fresh garlic because fresh garlic is what you're supposed to use. It is better that way. And then like roasted garlic, anywhere else I can get away with it, I'm using roasted garlic. And then I'll offer like a substitute or something like that for like a fresh garlic. But most of the time, I'm using roasted garlic in my recipes. You can't give up garlic. We weren't even gonna test me for it. I knew I had a food allergy and I didn't know what I was allergic to. I developed it in college. And I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm having a rough time here. We gotta figure this out. And the doctor was like, okay. I was like, well, definitely this and definitely that. And I was like, giving all the things. He was like, well, what about garlic? Do you want to try garlic? And I was like, I guess. But I put it in everything. So like, you'd think that I'd have trouble every time. And he was like, okay, well, let's just try. And then it was like the worst one. And I was like, this is the worst day of my life. Okay, so I'm actually, let's do this. We're gonna squeegee the liquid out of this pan and use a bench scraper. There we go. Nice. Okay. Okay, so this is everything that's gonna get blended, minus our garlic. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just squish. You kind of just push your finger into the bottom of the garlic, into the little clove section, and then just squeeze it out. And they come out pretty easy. Although that oil does make it hot. One more. If you want to add more than this, you go for it. You follow your little heart. Do it. But I am going to wash my hands now. 'Cause garlic. Make sure I don't touch my face. Okay. Okay, I'm going to move my blender around. See my back for a second. Oh, interesting. What do I want to do in this case? It won't be for very long. I'm unplugging my computer. My computer likes to go dark after a couple of minutes. It's not plugged in, so I'll just make sure that this goes quickly. Okay, so we have our blender. I do not need you anymore. Moving this guy out of the way. I'm gonna pull our blender up here so you guys can see. And I apologize for the noise, but it should be loud for a second, and then this thing likes to just like mute constant noise, so it'll probably go away. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Whew. So if you're using a high-powered blender, this is it. You're done. Now all you have to do is add in your cream, add in your chicken stock, add in your Parmesan rind. I guess once we kind of break that off at the end of that, and just let it kind of simmer. Let your soup go for about 30 minutes, 60 minutes, and then have at it. If you are not using a high-power blender, if you're using, I don't know, a food processor or a stick blender, like an immersion blender, or if you are using just like a regular blender that doesn't have like that kind of like high situation, if you want a super creamy, smooth soup, I do highly recommend that you pass this through a strainer. I don't think I have, do I have a strainer down here that I could like show? No, I don't. But I would highly recommend you pass it through a strainer. Tomatoes, peppers, anything like that, they have skin on the outside of them that don't break down. And so that's kind of why when you're making kind of sauces and things like that, A lot of the times they'll say like roast the pepper and then put it into like plastic or like cover it in a bowl and let it steam and then peel that skin off, because that skin does not like to break apart. And so you'll get pieces of that. If you can't like obliterate it into the smallest pieces, like so that you don't get that texture, you will taste that, like, or you will feel that texture of that tomato skin in your soup. And I honestly don't feel like peeling the skin off of the tomatoes after they're roasted. I just want to blend them in a high power blender. You can individually peel the skin off the tomatoes so that when you do blend it, you don't have that problem. Or you can blend it and then just put it through a strainer, just pour it through right into whatever you're going to be, whatever stock pot, soup pot situation you're going to be bringing it to a boil in, and go about your day if you want it to be really, really creamy. If you don't care, you're like, I want this soup to be rustic, I want this soup to kind of feel hearty in that kind of way, and you just want to throw a stick blender kind of in there and blend up by hand, and like have it be kind of like chunks of tomatoes and stuff like that. You do you. That is absolutely fine. Just know that skin, you will notice that skin if you are not either blending it this way or sending it through a sieve or a strainer, or you're peeling it off from the baking tray. So this is going to get poured in. What I also am probably gonna do, my chicken stock I put it in the refrigerator overnight, but it still has a little bit of, I love when stock is like really jello-y. And it's something that like you really only get, that's so gross. It's something that you only get when you're making it from scratch. It's really hard to get the amount of like collagen in there if you're not if you're not making it from scratch and you're just getting it from the grocery store. But I'm gonna actually do this too and just mix it up a little bit so that I get the last dregs of I want all of the tomato. So if I put the chicken stock in, it's way more liquid than the soup that we just put into our bowl, or into our stock pot there. So now what this is gonna do is it's just gonna allow me to really get all of the tomato stuff out of this, or at least most of it. I'm not leaving anything behind. So now that's like relatively clean. Okay, so that's all of my chicken stock. For the chicken stock, you're looking for about 1.5 cups, which is about 360 milliliters by volume. We're gonna add a 1/4 cup of heavy cream, which is 60 mils or about 64 grams of heavy cream. And then we're also going to just like wedge a piece of this rind off of my Parmesan here. And that's gonna get tossed in. I do say that you need to simmer the soup for 30 to 60 minutes because you have that fresh, those fresh herbs that just got blended in. Remember, they weren't roasted. We haven't cooked them yet. And so now we've blended these fresh herbs into this, and I need to get this cooking, and I want it to simmer in there so that it kind of marries into the rest of the dish. And it's not super like, oh my God, there's so much basil in this. Like, it needs to cook down a little bit. The flavor needs to soften. And it takes about 30 minutes to do that. So as much as you want to like blend it and then just eat it, you can, but I would suggest that you wait about 30 minutes and letting it just come to like a very, very low simmer on your boil, and let that go for some time just to let it cook out. Okay. Am I gonna find the end of this? Yeah. All right, so what I'm gonna do, what I tend to do is buy like a big piece of Parmesan, and then I'll just like cut off the rind and put the rind in pieces into my freezer, and then just leave it in a baggie, and I'll pull them out whenever I want to use them. We'll use this guy. All right, so let's do a nice little chunk of this. I'm actually gonna cut this in half. You could put as much of this as you want, but I'm only gonna use about this much, little piece here. That's gonna get tossed in. Let's turn this on. Let's see. I want big one. I'm gonna put it on low. And then we're gonna do this guy. Okay, the reason I'm doing the cream last, let's talk about this. So cream has a high fat content, so you can, in fact, put it in and you can have it be simmering and it's not gonna hurt it the way that it would be if you added like milk or something like that. However, if you decide that you are not, I'm eating all of this today, so I'm gonna put the cream directly into this and I'm good to go. If you decide that it is too much for you to have in one go, which this serves like 4+ people, I would highly recommend that you let this simmer and then you portion out the soup into containers for freezing, and then add cream to just the bowl that you are going to be eating from. Cream kind of, when you freeze it, it kind of separates a little bit, and in order to reheat it, you have to reheat it really, really low, which takes some time. And this way, if you are making it and freezing it without the cream, you can reheat it super fast, pour some cream in to your liking, and call it a day. And just always have, always kind of make your bisque kind of fresh. So you have a tomato soup, you're gonna add your cream in to finish it off and make it a bisque. But I would do it on a time by time just to have the best version possible, because like reheating dairy from frozen is not really great in my experience. So I do highly recommend, like if you are cooking this today and you don't plan to eat it, separate out the soup and then add cream as you go, as you eat the soup, and as you heat it up to eat it. But if you are planning on like having your entire family eat it, you think you're going to finish it all, go ahead. And if you do decide, if you don't end up and you have leftovers, like you think you're going to eat it all and you have leftovers, just make sure like throw it in a little tiny like sauce pot or something like that, or a soup pot on your stove, and just let it gently come back up to temperature. Don't try boiling anything. Put it on low, put a lid on, and just let it kind of do its thing on its own, and come back up to temperature slowly so that you aren't kind of having a weird separation. You can add more cream to kind of pull it all together once it is warmed up as well. So yeah, so it doesn't break. Yep. A giant wheel of parm. And then cooking on it, honestly, like the half thing, like the raclette where they like torch it and then like pour that down, that would be nuts. Or are you also talking about where they like scoop out the top of the Parmesan and do like a my bad, my brain. Yeah, cacio e pepe, right? And you're like making it in the Parmesan wheel. That'd be nuts. That's so expensive. That is such an expensive thing to do. I will probably not do that anytime soon. Make a bowl out of it. That's like stupid expensive. You'll set up a GoFundMe? That's funny. So I am going to add the cream. I'm going to do that right now. You're going to add, I think I said earlier, about a 1/4 cup, 60 mils, 64 grams. If you're doing it by weight, pull out that little guy. Oh, look, it's bisque. There we go. All right, put this back in the fridge. I'm going to whisk this soup up a little bit. Oh my God, that looks really good. Guys, I'm so hungry. Yeah, that doesn't need anything. That's really good. Okay. Let's have a quick discussion before I go about toppings. Okay, there are several things you can do for toppings. I think I listed in my notes on this recipe, I said you can, or at the bottom of the recipe, I said you can ladle soup into the bowls, right? And then you can top with croutons. You can top with basil oil. You can do more cream. There are a couple other options that are great. Honestly, anything dairy. You want to microplane or grate some Parmesan on top of your soup. Awesome. Throw some microgreens down. Also awesome. I do recommend if you want, you know how like sometimes you go to restaurants and they have like, it looks like it's cream kind of hanging out on top of the bowl, like all swirled in. They've got like some kind of oil and then like some kind of cream on top, and they're just like resting all nice and pretty on top. Cream sinks. They're not using cream, they're using buttermilk, unless they've thickened the cream in some way so that it will stay on top of the soup. So if you have a soup, even a thick soup, and you want to have kind of that like white swirl, just use buttermilk and it will sit on top. And also it adds like a nice little tang, which I really like. So I do highly recommend that. You could do some yogurt if you wanted to do like Greek yogurt. Just like a little dollop of that, or like sour cream, also a great option. I did make some croutons earlier. Croutons are super easy. I just had pre-sliced sourdough bread. Honestly, I'd prefer that these were thicker, but we use what we have. So I had some pre-sliced sourdough. I really like sourdough croutons. Again, I really like that added tang, and just something more than just like flat kind of bread. If you are using like an Italian loaf, I do recommend using like a flavored oil. Or adding kind of spices to your bread. So like if you did, I don't know, some garlic or paprika or some other kind of something, and like blended it down or used a mortar and pestle and got it like really fine, threw some olive oil or like a neutral oil into the mix of that, and then baste it onto your little, like your Italian loaf or something like that. I would say to cut a thick wedge, baste one side, flip it over, baste the other side with oil, and then cut that further into your cubes. Roast that in the oven, bake it in the oven for about 10 minutes, and you'll be good to go for your croutons. If you want to make, I have some basil oil here as well. I made this like a week ago. So if you want to do a basil oil, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your blender and you're going to put some olive oil or another neutral oil, doesn't matter. A neutral oil will last longer and it will give it a more basil flavor, but it really depends on what you're using it for. If you're using it for a soup that is Italian in like origin, then obviously olive oil makes sense, or Mediterranean origin, olive oil makes sense for like just that robust added flavor. But if you want, use a neutral oil, and then that basil will really come through, and it'll be the only thing that comes through. You're gonna put that in your freezer for about 30 to 60 minutes. You're gonna let it get nice and cold, and then you're gonna put the fresh basil in to a boiling pot of water, however much you wanna use. Turn this down, we're boiling. You're gonna put it in a pot of boiling water, and then for maybe 30 to 60 seconds, and then take that out and put that into some ice water. You're gonna blanch it. That's gonna help it keep its color, and it's gonna stop any more cooking of your basil. So in your boiling water, into some ice water, right? Then that, you're gonna squeeze all of the moisture out of that as you can. Stick it in a paper towel, give it a squeeze, and plop that into your cold oil. Then that is gonna get blended. And then that's gonna get poured into a container, or just let it sit in the blender, however you wanna do that's fine, for a solid 15 to 20 minutes, and let it kind of separate a little bit. And then that's gonna get poured through a fine mesh strainer. It's better if you use cheesecloth or like a coffee filter or something like that, just to really get all of it. But a fine mesh strainer is fine. It'll just last longer the more pulp you get out of it and you manage to extract from it, the longer it lasts in the fridge because you don't have the pulp in there kind of going off. And you can make yourself some basil oil. It takes a while for it to go through a coffee filter or cheesecloth. It'll take like several hours actually. But by the time you finish, you've got a really nice basil oil, and it's great on everything. It's great on the soup. It's great on toast. It's great with mozzarella. It's great on nectarines. Oh my God, fresh sliced nectarines with some basil oil and salt is like so good. So just have some fun. It's good with pretty much all summer produce and on ice cream. Why not? But yeah, you can make yourself some basil oil if you want to for this as well. Top with a grilled cheese sandwich. You could do that too. I don't know if I would like top it, but maybe like on the side and like lots of dipping. Okay. Tomato ice cream with basil oil on top. I mean, I would try it. I would absolutely try that. Although I think I would want it to be like a tomato granita or something like that. Like if you did like a sorbet or a granita and then top it with basil oil. Very nice. Fancy grilled cheese sounds great with this. Yes, it does. Okay, I guess we do have some people cooking with me. How are we doing? How do you feel about what you've made today? Are you in a good place? Does everything look and taste good for you? Do you have any final questions before I end the video? You're still alive. That's great. Taste good? Awesome. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream. So end our live, or end our playlist, I guess I should say, not our live. So for those of you who found this video, wanted to learn how to make a tomato basil bisque, you have accomplished that. Your soup will be ready in about 20 minutes and you are good to go. You can top it with whatever you want. If you want to take another, while that is simmering, if you want to make yourself some basil oil, you now have the instructions for doing that. If you want to make croutons, you got the instructions for doing that. Have fun with your toppings. Enjoy the soup. I hope that you like it. I will see you guys next time that we do a cook along. We do these monthly. It's the first Sunday of every month. And I hope that you like and subscribe. If you found anything interesting here today, I've got plenty more recipes and FAQs and informational stuff where that came from on my website at alittlespoon.com. You can find me on Instagram. My handle is at _little_spoon because I got into the game late and we had to use underscores instead of spaces or having it all together as one word. It happens, and I am open all the time. DM me if you have questions about food. I have a contact page on my website. You can fill out that form and send questions if you have anything or recommendations, suggestions. I'm all ears. I love cooking. I love teaching. So I'm here if anybody needs anything. Thanks so much. I'll see you guys next time. Cool. Still didn't mention Patreon. It's fine. I'm the worst person at promoting myself. Let's see. I want to plug my computer back in real quick. Oop. There we go. Oh my gosh, I want to eat this soup so bad. My tummy is growling at me. Add it in post? Nah. When do I get to eat on stream? If you want, you can come taste it, but we're not eating yet. Everybody's going to be eating together. Throw it in the credits, yeah. Do a voiceover. Producer, videographer, chef. That'd be pretty funny, actually. Yeah, I guess we can do it now. We'll do it live. I have a Patreon. It's essentially there to kind of help support, obviously, me developing, making, writing about these recipes, photographing them, and kind of just maintaining the website. But mainly, I guess there's two main reasons. One is I don't want to have ads on the website. So any amount of support to keep ads off my website, thank you. Lots of gratitude for that. For the people who are currently members, I love you guys. And the second reason to get a Patreon, if you just if there's not just I want to support and then lurk and have nothing to do with this, we actually have a pretty good community. I think so. I have a private Discord server. If you become a Patreon member, it lets you link your Discord, lets you link your Discord in, and so you get access to a bunch of channels where we just sit and talk about food all the time and post stuff that we're doing. Anytime I'm unsure about something, I'm always in the behind the scenes channel, being like, hey guys, what do you think of this? Which picture should I use? What recipes should I be cooking? How y'all feeling? Is there anything you want me to work on? So I'm in there kind of often asking questions, but we talk a lot about what we're currently making, what restaurants we're going to. If we're traveling, we ask for recommendations. It's kind of all over the place, but it's a lot of fun. And we do monthly hangouts where normally it's the end of the month. I'll kind of post something and we'll come up with a day, usually on the weekend, to kind of hang out for about an hour, check in with each other, see what we're cooking, see what we're working on, and just kind of have a good time. But it's really nice. And it's cheap. I think I didn't, all tiers have full access. I didn't do the you can only do this if you're at $5 or $10 a month or any of that kind of stuff. So $1 gives you full access to the Discord and everything else. But you can support however you want, in whatever monetary amount you want to do. $5, $10, $20, $1. It's really up to you. But all support is appreciated, so thank you. But that's it. That's the spiel. That's the super long-winded spiel about Patreon that I forget to do because it feels like rambling. But yeah. Unsubbing from Lep to sub to Carrie. Yeah, you're all right. How are your cookies, Bethany? That's funny. The little spoon. You have okay. Lazy. You have no idea how many people send me emails about employment and interview opportunities and about canceling their orders or wanting to get off a mailing list or that something went wrong with their order and they need help. And I'm like, I am not Little Spoon baby food company. I am a Little Spoon food blogger. And I don't know how you found my contact information. I would hope from their website. I don't know if they're just Little Spoon contact and then go to my page and don't look around at all. I don't know how it happens, but I get so many emails about the baby food company. And I have to be like, hi, thank you so much for contacting me. I am not who you think I am, and I cannot help you. Please look for other contact information because I cannot do what you need me to do. I do not work for that company. So many. Wait, what? Oh no. A replacement scoop number 3? Wait, how many cookie scoops have you? Why are they breaking? Is it because you're trying to scoop after you've let the dough chill? I broke 2 scoops that way because I was being stupid. And I put the whole bowl of dough in the refrigerator to chill and then went to scoop out of it and was like, this is really hard to do. I actually have contacted the baby food company twice, asking them to take me off of their stuff. I even show up, like people will email me on LinkedIn. I'm listed as working for that company on LinkedIn. And I don't know if that was a LinkedIn issue because my name is so similar that they just associated me with the company. But even on LinkedIn, I get people who are like, it was so great interviewing. And I'm like, I don't work for this company. Or thanks so much for taking my resume. No, I can't, no, don't email me. Can't help you. I ended up on an email about a radio interview once, and I was like, "Hi, I don't work for this company. Please take me off of this email chain. I don't need to know about the inner workings of your radio station and how your interview is gonna work. Like, please, like, it's crazy." Yeah, and it's just because the name is so similar, and even the logo, like their logo is a spoon that's kind of like diagonal, and then like mine is like, it's great. It's great. It's super. It is funny and annoying. It is funny and annoying. Food blogger problems. Yeah, I know. After a certain point, I would have made myself official. Request to be CC'd on any and all future emails for entertainment. Yeah. As a cybersecurity person, this is mortifying. Wait, why? Because I mean, like, I'm assuming that it's just, okay, the LinkedIn part of it is weird. And getting on internal emails, like being added to internal emails is also weird. Knowing that I did not start on that email chain, that I was added to it at some point and I don't know why. Like, that's not cool. But I feel like the random people that are emailing me about their stuff are just like searching contact a little spoon or contact little spoon. And they're just, it's like popping up my email address and they're just like copying and pasting it and not actually reading anything on the blog or surrounding, like any of the copy surrounding it. And I feel like that's just like people not paying attention. The internal stuff is weird. Yeah. I just Googled Little Spoon contact and it only comes with the company. I don't know. Yep, I don't know. I don't know what that word is. DENTGE? What does that mean? Could be a risk of NDA. That's actually, yeah, that's really true. That's true. I'm about to be sent the war plans. That's pretty funny. I think you mean the Department of War. Oh my gosh, that's, yeah. Yeah. Your emails are close at a little spoon or at little spoon. Yeah, I have a feeling like there's something that's just like a simple mistake that's happening. Those people adding you to internal emails is why IT workers have job security. For real. For real. The same people that click on phishing links. Yeah. Yeah. I only click on phishing links. Oh, okay. I guess any last questions or anything anybody wants to ask before I go? You want to eat some on stream? Okay, yeah, we can do that. Do you want to get like a little cup, or do you want a full-on bowl situation? Let me get you. I'm just gonna get a little cup. I'll get one of my photography cups. Maybe. Let's see if I can get around anything without knocking it over. Let's see. You want a little bowl? Here you go, baby, a little bowl. Here you go. You said taste. In my defense, you said taste. Please, sir. I want some more. Oh, pumpkin pie or sweet potato pie? Pumpkin. Give me some gourd pie. A 1 day long subathon? 1 day, you say, Nerm? Interesting. Do you want to do soup spoon? You want some basil oil on it?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Tiny bowl, big man.
There you go.
Cute.
I'm never against a bread bowl, ever. It's an eighth of a portion of last week's smoothie.
Oh yeah.
He didn't break the blender this week. I know, that's good. That's good. Technically, he didn't break it. It just, the motor got like too hot and shut itself off to protect itself. So yeah, it did a good job. Good job. What? Yeah, he overheated it. So it didn't have enough liquid in it. And so it was just spinning and it wasn't actually doing anything. And it started overheating and shut itself off to protect itself. I don't even remember that. The first cooking stream I tuned into, Carrie was telling Lep not to wash rice in warm water, and then he proceeded to do that.
I do remember that.
Ooh, a seafood boil? That's gonna be good. Oh, I did, actually, one of the first cooking streams I did was we had a seafood boil with a bunch of other stuff. It's been a long time since I've made that. I should.
Oh, very good. One more.
We'll have more. I just need to make some grilled cheese for them.
Mom made grilled cheese already.
Oh, sweet. So we can just go upstairs with the soup and be done?
I don't know if she made us some.
Oh, yeah.
I can go ask.
Okay. Well, after we close out. Peace, friends. Peace. I think I talked about everything. Soup lasts in the refrigerator for about 4 days. You can put it in the freezer for 2 months.
Do it, Adam. Put it in the International Department of Gluttony.
Yeah. We talked about everything. Bye. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, his server is open to anybody. So you can go into he's a Department of Gluttony, which I started before I had my own Discord. So he is Department of Gluttony. You can go in there, you can post any pictures, talk about food all day long. Yeah, and we all appreciate it. Absolutely, Midlife. You are very welcome for the stream. I love doing it.